Fraud is perhaps the most common and frequently heard word in recent times. A quick glance at the news or media reveals countless examples of counterfeit products. Even gold and foreign currencies are being cleverly disguised as genuine to deceive consumers. Financial scams are even more terrifying. Criminals employ every trick imaginable, from deepfake videos to impersonating bank staff or law enforcement, to persuade people to willingly transfer money into phantom accounts. It seems there's little the authorities can do to keep us truly safe. But do you know that a long time ago, there was a man nicknamed the Wolf, a notorious figure who gained worldwide fame? With just a few sweet words and clever sales tactics, he managed to swindle tens of millions of dollars from his clients. That's right, I'm talking about Jordan Belfort, a former stockbroker who orchestrated thousands of different fraudulent schemes, forcing the FBI to intervene, investigate, and organize a massive crackdown. Today, why don't you join me in talking about the Wolf of Wall Street and uncovering every single deceptive trick of this old wolf, Jordan Belfort? Was he truly a vile, dirty scumbag, or simply a victim of the greed stoked by the sheer irresistible power of money? Dancing Among the Wolves. Essentially, the film is the story of Jordan Belfort's turbulent life. The ambitious stockbroker quickly rose to become one of the most notorious figures Wall Street has ever produced. For Jordan, Wall Street was a tropical jungle, home to ferocious beasts, a cradle that trained the world's most infamous economic assassins. There are no limits to your dreams when you set foot here. There is no barrier that cannot be broken. By the age of 27, a time when many are still struggling to find stable employment, Jordan already owned a luxurious, expensive mansion, dozens of supercars and high-end yachts. The more money he made, the more exhilarated he felt. Jordan loved money, loved the thrill of making it, and immersed himself in throwing it away on alcohol, drugs, and endless debaucherous parties. Like many in society, Jordan was not born with a silver spoon. His life was literally an up and down struggle. In 1987, 6 years after President Ronald Reagan began his reforms, approving numerous policies and lifting many controls that he believed had stunted America's economic growth for decades, Jordan sought out Wall Street with the hope of changing his life. The ambitious 25-year-old quickly realized this was where he belonged. Strangely, the madness and vulgar language possessed an enormous energy. Like a shot of adrenaline pumped straight into his bloodstream, Jordan was immediately swept up in the whirlwind. That's when he received his first life lesson from Mark Hanna. Everything they did here was simply an attempt to keep customers tethered, giving them the illusion of a bright future by investing in various stocks, while the brokers, the middlemen, profited handsomely. With his innate intelligence and the cunning nature of an old fox, Jordan mastered every move on Wall Street in just 6 short months. However, he was quickly blindsided when the very day he received his stockbroker license was the day the market crashed. Yes, October 19, 1987 was dubbed Black Monday, as the entire US economy faced a crisis and the stocks of major corporations plummeted to critical lows. Wall Street had literally consumed him and spat him out. Initially, to earn money for his family, Jordan intended to quit the profession and find other work. But Teresa, his wife, persuaded him to stick to the career he was trained for. She saw in him a hard-working husband striving to provide for his family. So he took a job at Investor Center, a small brokerage firm in Long Island that specialized in selling low-priced stocks. For large, reputable companies with stable annual incomes, the securities they issue are what experts call blue chips, high in value and low in risk. Blue chips are the ultimate goal for any broker. They are easy to sell, trade, and close. Conversely, low-priced stocks or penny stocks are typically issued by small or very small companies. They are low in value and incredibly high risk. Furthermore, due to their low value, often less than $1 per share, these stocks are not listed on major exchanges. Instead, they are traded using pink sheets. Crucially, these stocks offer an extremely high commission rate. It's important to know that with blue-chip stocks, a broker only earns about 1% profit from a client's transaction. For example, if a client bought $1,000 worth of blue-chip stock, Jordan would only earn $10. In contrast, due to their high-risk nature, penny stocks offer a massive commission split, ranging from 20% to 50%. This meant if Jordan sold $1,000 worth of stock to a client, up to $500 in commission would flow easily into his pocket. With the instinct of a predator, on his very first day at Investor Center, Jordan earned $2,000 in cold, hard cash. Shortly thereafter, He was bringing in tens of thousands of dollars a month thanks to penny stocks. After a chance meeting and friendship with Donny Azoff, Jordan decided to start his own company. They recruited Jordan's childhood friends, including Robbie Feinberg, Alden Kupferberg, Nikki Koskoff, Chester Ming and Toby W. to join the firm. Although they weren't formally trained or particularly bright, they all shared Jordan's ability to sell anything and an insatiable hunger for money. Together, they grew wealthy, and the company expanded in size. Jordan's thirst remained unquenched. The more money he made, the more dissatisfied he became. He wanted more. And so he quickly began formulating an idea to target wealthier prey, those willing to spend larger sums of money on transactions. A new plan was approved. Jordan would rebrand the company, adopting the name Stratton Oakmont for market transactions, and rent an office on Wall Street as headquarters. Initially, to gain customer trust, Jordan sold a few blue-chip stocks issued by large corporations. But shortly after, he flooded the market with various penny stocks, selling them to clients and reaping enormous profits. Jordan's reputation began to attract media attention. Forbes magazine in an interview dubbed him the Wolf of Wall Street. Initially, Jordan considered it an insult, yet the article proved to be the perfect stepping stone to his notoriety. From the day the article was published, hundreds of young people flocked to apply for jobs at his company. This was also the time Jordan and his friends plunged into countless extravagant, debaucherous parties. There was no illegal substance they didn't get involved with. No woman could truly satisfy them. The office became a venue for the display of the most repulsive human behavior imaginable. Moral values were virtually non-existent. Notably, none of the Stratton Oakmont employees seemed to care. They were ecstatic with the money they were earning, and this only fueled their desire for more. Money was nothing more than pieces of paper that anyone could crumple up and throw into the trash for fun. The entire company, where Jordan was the director, became a literal, insane jungle. If it had stopped there, it wouldn't have been Jordan. He took things even further by changing the penny stock selling strategy into a pump and dump scheme. Initially, Jordan would buy a large volume of penny stocks at a high price to deceive the market, causing their value to skyrocket. Clients, enticed to buy these stocks, would indirectly push the already inflated value even higher. That's when Jordan would unload the stocks he owned onto the market, and billions of dollars would flow into his pocket. Naturally, this form of fraud quickly brought the FBI into the investigation. There were moments when Jordan considered giving it all up, yet he couldn't let go and walk away. And so, he challenged the authorities, a moment that officially led to the collapse of Jordan's entire empire. The true nature of Jordan. It's easy to recognize Jordan as a greedy person. Yes, his motivation was driven by a bottomless greed. However, there was something else hidden deep within him. Something that made him defy all odds to make money and indulge in countless excessive acts of debauchery. Let's rewind to the beginning of Jordan's career. He was a young, intelligent, and eager-to-learn man. He once believed that if both he and the client benefited, it would be a win-win for both sides. But Mark Hanna, Jordan's first mentor, immediately shot down that idea. Hanna said there was no such thing as a win-win. Focus on your own wallet first, and then think about others. A born economic killer, Jordan possessed a phenomenal talent for sales. He was a passionate speaker, capable of transmitting his endless inspiration to everyone. How much is this pen worth? Is its value in its versatility or its durability? According to Jordan, none of that mattered as much as how much the customer felt they needed the pen. That is the most basic principle of supply and demand. Driven by this, he constantly presented an illusion of how much money customers would earn by buying various stocks, painting a bright future to obscure the deceptive reality underneath. With every act of deception, Jordan felt an exhilarating rush, not just because he was making money, but because he was winning a complex psychological game by manipulating his prey. It was a form of gratification that satisfied a deep, primal instinct within his soul. To explain Jordan's actions, let's examine him through a psychological lens using Sigmund Freud's Psychoanalytic theory and Carl Jung's Shadow Theory. Sigmund Freud, the founder and developer of psychoanalytic theory, argued that the human personality is complex and divided into three parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id, instinct, which is the unconscious component comprising instinctual and primitive behaviors, operates on the pleasure principle. The ego and the superego, on the other hand, operate on the reality principle, aiming to satisfy the id in a way that aligns with standards. Under the control of the ego and superego, Our primal urges are channeled into behaviors consistent with the ideals and moral standards we acquire from our parents and society, which define what is right and wrong. However, when the id is satisfied without any inhibition, it gradually grows stronger, rising up to dominate. This explains a lot about why Jordan felt no remorse for what he did, and why his use of drugs and countless call girls never truly satisfied him. Similarly, if we look through the lens of Carl Jung's shadow theory, we find a thought-provoking parallel. According to Jung, the shadow is the hidden part of the human psyche, a reservoir of thoughts, desires, and cravings that have been rejected by the self. It is the fragmented piece of emotion that once made us ashamed, fearful, or hurt, and thus had to be buried deep beneath the layer of consciousness. In one speech, Jordan Belfort blatantly declared that if he had to sell his soul to become wealthy, he would still choose that path. This quote strips bare the true nature of Jordan and his associates, individuals from impoverished backgrounds haunted by a constant fear of scarcity. For them, living in hardship was more terrifying than death itself. This anxiety was so immense that when the FBI started sniffing around, they didn't hesitate to recklessly try every means to conceal their assets, even needing to race through a storm to reach the Swiss bank where tens of millions of dollars were hidden, as quickly as possible. This very act clearly reflects the emergence of the shadow. The unaccepted dark side now flares up like a fire fueled by ambition and fear. And this makes us wonder, is the ego of each person truly strong enough to tame the inner darkness? Or ultimately, is everyone living under the silent sway of the shadow? Money became the goal, while women and debauched parties were the rewards. Needs were pushed beyond moral boundaries, leading Jordan to drown in them. The more depraved he became, the more we realized it was not simply pleasure, but a profound urge and craving deep within his subconscious. It makes us shiver with dread. How far can a person go? How much can they be manipulated by their own desires? And the Wolf of Wall Street is the answer to it all. The wolves and the sheep. However, there is another point we need to address. Why, when he knew he was facing prison, did Jordan still refuse to hand over control of the company to Donnie, pay the fine, and retire into obscurity? To explain this, we need to closely observe the conversation between Jordan and Kimmy, an employee who had been with him since the company's founding. He recalled the first day they met, when a poor Kimmy asked for a $5,000 advance to pay for her child's school and rent. A good boss would surely agree, but Jordan was more than that. He was a magnificent boss, signing a $25,000 check for the new employee without hesitation. He took pride in demonstrating his generosity to Kimmy during her toughest times. He welled up when she and his employees worshipped him. Stratton Oakmont was not just his life's work. It was the place where he was respected and adored, something he lacked in his everyday life. Indeed, after running off with Naomi LaPaglia, his current wife, and betraying Teresa, Naomi soon grew sick of her husband's debauchery. Every day began with an argument that drove Jordan mad, something we can almost certainly say never happened at work. The moment he stepped into the company, Jordan was a different man. He was radiant, happy, and worshipped like a living saint. Everyone called him the Wolf. And to him, his employees were his pack of wolves beneath him. He was the alpha male, the dominant one, and the clients were nothing more than delicious sheep waiting to be devoured. This could arguably be the first time Jordan showed any sense of responsibility. He could be careless with his wife and children, insensitive to the pain of others who lost their life savings, willing to sell out his friends to avoid prison, and even throw morality into the trash to act shamelessly. Yet, in that very moment, his impulsive nature made him do a complete 180-degree turn. It was all because he realized his own greatness in the eyes of others. And in that instant, he felt revered like a god. There are no friends in a world of greed. Ultimately, in the cruel world of the Wolf of Wall Street, no one is truly a friend. When everything collapsed, everyone frantically sought a way out. Countless names were sacrificed as scapegoats, all to buy their own peace. Not just Jordan Belfort, anyone caught in that whirlwind was willing to betray others to save themselves. What surprises people is that despite his conviction, the time Jordan spent in prison was incredibly short. Furthermore, after his release, he became a renowned motivational speaker, lecturing worldwide about success and money. Did Jordan truly pay the price for what he caused? Or is this just a bitter irony directed at a legal system easily manipulated by money, especially in a place as tempting as Wall Street? We may feel disgust at Jordan's tactics, the embodiment of the financial market's dark side, yet at the same time, we cannot look away from his deception. This very magnetism forces us to ask, are we being manipulated by Jordan Belfort once again, mesmerized by the false glamour of money, only to believe in the dream he painted for us? To me, that is the biggest question the film leaves open, a mirror reflecting our own conscience, allowing each person to find their own answer. And that is everything I wanted to say about The Wolf of Wall Street. Although it premiered over 10 years ago, the film still retains its appeal and charm. What makes the movie special is that we can learn not only about economic lessons and work passion, but also about human psychology. Every time we rewatch it at different stages of life, we notice and appreciate hidden details that we missed before. That is what makes cinema live forever. That is what makes The Wolf of Wall Street great in its own way.